What's up, everyone? I'm here with my NFL Week 13 DraftKings picks. This time we're going to be talking about some sleeper slash value plays. If you haven't seen my main picks video, you can check the link in the description and in the top right now. So without further ado, let's go and hop into the video. Alright, so I'm starting off here with Marvin Jones, and I really don't think I need to elaborate too much on it because the price is right in my opinion, and the matchup is just killer for this guy. The big thing that people are questioning is that he's just really been struggling these past few weeks, and especially in the past about month and a half or so. I mean, if you go back to when he faced the Redskins, he was still in the 7,000 DK salary mark in late October, and that week he didn't play that bad. I mean, he still almost had 100 receiving yards, but he hasn't had a touchdown in like almost 2 months now, and as a whole, he's just been playing poorly. But I mean, he's had some tough matchups. I mean, against the Redskins, I believed he saw a lot of Josh Norman. Then the next week, he went and faced Houston on the road against a Texans secondary that actually is not bad at all. Then he faced the Vikings on the road, which is obviously going to be a tough matchup. Then he went back to Detroit and actually faced the Jacksonville Jaguars. And honestly, Stafford didn't even throw the ball that much. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are not that bad of a passing defense either. And then on Thanksgiving Day, he actually could have had a pretty big game against the Vikings at home. A couple of things didn't go his way. He had a chance to catch a couple of touchdowns, and again, they just didn't come down with them. Whether it was a good defense by the Viking defender or whatever the case may have been, but I think this is a good spot for him. Again, this game should have a ton of points. We've talked about it quite a bit, and again, I don't think I need to elaborate on how bad this New Orleans defense really is. I mean, it's pretty common knowledge around the league now at how poor they are in every fashion of the defense. So again, Marvin Jones is going to be pretty popular, and I think I'm considering playing him heavily in cash games. So next up, I have Jeremy Hill, and I actually played Hill in cash games last week, and he was pretty low owned as I expected, and it made perfect sense. I mean, he was going against this Baltimore Ravens team, who I've verbally said on videos that I'm not a really believer on this team on either side of the ball. That said, the Ravens did look okay in that game, but I mean, the real value out of Hill now is because he's basically doing two roles now. Before, he was pretty much the exclusive carry back, and Giovanni Bernard was getting all the targets, and Burkhead was getting a little bit of the work as well. Last week, he actually had 6 targets, caught all 6 of them for 61 yards. That was specifically what I was hoping to see out of him, and that was what we got. So his price did not come up too much. He's only at $4,300. Still one of the cheapest prices we've seen him at all year. And he didn't do much on the ground last week, to be honest. He only had 12 carries, which is the fewest amount of carries he had in the past 3 games before that. And he only had 21 rushing yards. So, I mean, nothing spectacular there. So maybe this is a case of him not being as effective on the ground because he's getting more looks through the air. I don't know. But as long as he continues to get about 5+ targets or so, and he's still below, this kind of 5K range or so, I think he is definitely a guy you need to consider moving forward. It's obviously not the best matchup right now going against the Philadelphia Eagles, but again, he's so cheap that, I mean, if you just get 10 points out of him, that's really all you need. And to get a number one back at this price who likely is going to see at least about 5 targets or so seems like a pretty safe bet, and that's exactly what we're looking for in cash games. All right, so next up I have Marquise Wilson, and this guy exploded onto the scene last week against the Titans, dropping 29.5 DK points on 8 receptions, 125 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. So, I mean, this guy just looked like an absolute stud last week, and, I mean, with good reason, a lot of people are eyeing him this week. He was the stone minimum $3,000 for a wide receiver last week. This is only the second week all season you can even put him in a DK lineup because he hasn't even been in the DraftKings player pool. He's really making a name for himself now. So a lot of people are interested in picking this guy, and I mean, with good reason. I've heard some people say they're going to play him in cash. I don't know if I can bring myself to do that. It's kind of like, already questioning whether or not I'm going to play Tyreek Hill. If I'm not going to play Tyreek Hill, how in the world could my brain tell me to play Marquise if I'm not going to play Tyreek? Because we've seen Tyreek do at least something all season. This guy only has 2 games all year where he actually has a reception. He only has 2 games all year where he actually has a target. So, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just kind of torn here. But I'm going to put him in a couple lineups. I don't think I'm going to play him in cash. If you are, you're way more braver than I am because I just don't think I can bring myself to do it, even if it does make sense. All right, so next up I have Colin Kaepernick, and A lot throughout the week, I heard people talk about Kaepernick or Russell Wilson as their cash game quarterback. And honestly, at the price range, you really can't go wrong with either of them. But Kaepernick has actually been significantly more consistent than Russell Wilson since Colin Kaepernick got the nod from Chip Kelly to start for this 49ers team. In those 6 games that Kaepernick has started, he's outscored Russell Wilson in 5 of those games, I believe. 4 of those games, and pretty single-handedly done a lot of damage. He's thrown a touchdown pass in every single game he started this season. He has at least 4 rushing attempts in every single game he's played. He's put up some pretty big games. I mean, he has a couple games where he's put over 20-plus points. Then he has a game where he dropped nearly 40 points. And last week against the Dolphins, had 3 passing touchdowns and had over 100 rushing yards as well. We're eventually going to see Kaepernick do what, is kind of the dream situation for a quarterback in the sense of throwing for 300 passing yards and running for 100 rushing yards. He almost did it last week, came up 4 yards short in the passing game, but it's going to happen. This week is possible. He has a pretty good matchup. Obviously, Russell Wilson has a very good matchup as well against this Carolina Panthers team, who is very weak in his secondary, and their biggest strong suit being their front 7 is a little bit shorthanded now as well, because we know for a fact that Luke Kuechly is not going to play now. We also heard that Kurt Coleman's not going to play, which does hurt the secondary even more for the Carolina Panthers. So, you can't really go wrong with either of these guys. I think I'm leaning Kaepernick a little bit more just because I think he does have significant more rushing upside. That said, in the last 2 games, Russell Wilson has run the ball a little bit more. In the past 2 games, he actually has 8 rushing attempts. So, he's definitely getting his feet back under him. You could make the argument that Russell is still the better quarterback, but he's been dealing with these injuries. That's why he hasn't been playing quite as well. Obviously that's a reasonable argument. But regardless, I feel pretty good about taking Kaepernick. So next up we have Spencer Ware, and he's probably my favorite sleeper on the week. Everybody's getting kind of carried away with talking about Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. I've actually seen Alex Smith being talked about a little bit more than I would like him to be. That said, Spencer Ware is flying under the radar, and I don't know why, because this matchup is super, super good for him. So first off, this Falcons team against the run is actually, they're not terrible, I guess, but where they're really, really vulnerable is in the receiving game against running backs. They've allowed the most receptions in the NFL to running backs at 91. They've allowed the most receiving yards in the NFL to running backs at 756. And as a whole, they've allowed the 2nd most fantasy points per game to running backs at 30.3. Only the San Francisco 49ers are allowing more. That in itself is a perfect reason to play Spencer Ware in this game. Now, I know he hasn't been getting that involved in the passing game the past few weeks. Only has a handful of receptions in the past few games. He's still been getting about 15 touches or so. Looks like he's still trying to kind of get his bearings back after he missed a game or 2 with that concussion. That said, this appears to be a really, really good situation for him. He should be relatively low owned. I think around the $6,000 range, people are going to be looking elsewhere. So I like Spencer Ware a lot, especially in tournaments. And hopefully you can get him at a really low ownership, and hopefully he can take advantage of this really good matchup in the passing game and really capitalize on the mismatch. So finishing up here with Ladarius Green, and he's definitely the riskiest play that I've shared in this video. That said, I think he does have a pretty good ceiling because he does have the potential to catch a few touchdown passes. When this guy is on the field, although he isn't on the field that much, he's running passing routes, and that's very promising for a tight end. Even if he's only on the field for 20 to 30 plays, that could be 20 to 30 passing routes, obviously. So if he gets at least a handful of targets in the red zone, obviously it's going to raise his probability of scoring a touchdown. And Big Ben likes to throw to these big guys in the red zone, of course, as most quarterbacks do. So I think Green actually has probably the best chance to score a touchdown this week than he has in a while. Not the best matchup in the world, but it's not bad. It's not going to scare me away from picking him in a few lineups. I don't hate the price. He's pretty cheap. There's not that many cheap tight ends, and if you go with this guy and as your main tight end, you could obviously do a little bit more somewhere else at one of your other positions. So I'm going to take a chance on him in a tournament or 2, and hopefully we can get lucky and he can catch a pair or so and maybe win us some money. All right, so thank you for tuning in to this week's picks. Hope all of you guys have a very successful week 13 and win lots of money. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. Be sure to share me some screenshots of your lineups with some of the picks that I shared that did well if you guys end up winning money with these. Hopefully, we both can have a really good week 13. And thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Later.